I'm going to be honest with you. Today has been slightly challenging to set this all up. And it's turned out that I have a little friend with me who you might recognise as Princess. And if you hear birds in the background, it's because I have birds. And they're rescue birds. I love them dearly and they get a bit excited when they hear my voice. So we'll just go with it all. So most of us move through life thinking that we're making deliberate choices and making the decisions required to build the life that we want. But much of the time, we are not navigating consciously at all. We were following maps that were laid down when we were far too young to know what we were actually doing. And they did serve a purpose at the time. But today I want to talk about what I actually mean by internal maps, because once you see this clearly, you see that much of your behaviour actually makes sense in a very different way. Now, obviously, when we use the word internal maps, we're talking about it as a metaphor, which actually does make sense because what I'm talking about is navigating life. But let's look at it from a practical day-to-day perspective. What you're going to learn in this session is genuinely valuable, and it's often the aha moment for a lot of people that I work with privately. You're going to learn why your behaviour makes sense once you understand the internal wiring behind it. How much of your anxiety, hesitation and dissatisfaction is not personal or pathological, but human. How awareness alone begins to loosen patterns that once felt automatic. Now, when we talk about internal maps, we're actually talking about cognitive processes. That probably doesn't help much either, right? So in simpler terms, we're talking about the way we think. And for clarity, I want to break this down into the levels of the mind. We have conscious thought that is largely driven by the prefrontal cortex. We have subconscious influence that is shaped by conditioning, past experiences, and social norms. We have unconscious influence. This is driven by primordial biological hardwiring that kept our species alive. Now we're going to start at the bottom and we're going to work our way up. Today we're going to look at the unconscious level, and then next week we'll look at the subconscious patterns. At the unconscious level, we are hardwired for the following. We have a low tolerance for ambiguity. We do not like uncertainty. For our ancestors, uncertainty meant certain death. We have a cognitive bias. We are prediction machines. We are constantly looking for evidence to make us right. We are perpetually dissatisfied. But this drives growth. Electricity would have never been invented if people were happy with candles. We're negative thinkers. Bad news mattered. Early humans had to stay alert for potential danger. Now, I've written a whole chapter in my book dedicated to this hardwiring in the non-conscious mind. And the reason for that is because it's very, very important, as you are beginning to see. These foundations sit at the base level of human suffering, and they've been capitalised upon. And we can't remove this hardwiring. It's embedded in the unconscious and it's primordial. However, when we understand it, we can work with it and not against it. These mechanisms explain so much about our behaviour. And when we understand it, we can accept ourselves. We can accept our humanity. We can accept our imperfection. When that voice in your head tells you that if you put yourself out there, people are not going to like you, or that idea isn't going to work, or that you shouldn't take that particular risk, that's your low tolerance for ambiguity responding to the unknown. When you're not in a relationship and you want to be in a relationship, all you're going to notice around you are happy people in relationships. You're not going to notice the unhappy people in relationships or the happy people not in relationships. That's your cognitive bias at work. When you avoid exercise or you're working at your computer and you feel that discomfort kind of pressure in your head and you reach for the comfort food, that is your low tolerance for discomfort. When not enough becomes a familiar theme. You're not working hard enough. You don't have enough money. You're not lovable enough. You don't have a big enough car. You don't have enough time. That's perpetual dissatisfaction. And when you're drawn to catastrophes on the news, you find yourself gossiping in your social groups, you're doom scrolling, that is your negative bias at work. So without cognitive awareness, without recognition of these powerful natural drives, we suffer. We suffer a lot. And life becomes a loop of striving, self-doubt, avoidance, comparison, and quiet dissatisfaction. Even when on the outside, things look very, very successful. So, what can we do about it? First, recognition and understanding. And you now have that. If it hasn't fully landed yet, replay this video. There's enough here for a solid foundation. Second, acceptance. You can't change this wiring. It's primordial. But understanding it explains a great deal. Forgive yourself for being human. Without awareness, you will always want more. You will never quite feel satisfied. You will continually find evidence for limiting beliefs. And we're going to talk about more of that next week. And you will instinctively catastrophize the future. And that is not the failing of a human being. That is the biology of being human. I find that acceptance brings an enormous amount of relief. And third, we can navigate the hardwiring because now we know it's there. How do you do this? You design supportive habits. And I have made other videos that help you map your habits and then subconsciously deliver them. And we're going to talk more about that next week. Clarify your values. What truly matters to you. Stabilize your identity. What do you think about yourself? What do you tell yourself? What do you say out loud about yourself? The more all of this is brought into your awareness, the stronger the positive outcomes will become. But most importantly, you'll now realize when your healthy habits, your empowering beliefs, and authentic identity are being hijacked by the unconscious wiring. So next week, I'm going to talk about the subconscious cognitive patterns, the way we think subconsciously. That's the next level up from the unconscious wiring because they further shape the internal maps that we're talking about. So if you enjoy these conversations, then please leave a comment. I read them all and I'm genuinely interested to see if you're implementing these talks, and maybe share this video with a friend that you think might help. And if you want to be notified when I drop a new video, which is kind of working out between every 7 to 10 days, then subscribe. I hope you find it as fascinating and as useful as I do.